Afternoon, everyone. Early evening. I hope you're all well, and thank you to the 84 people we've got attending so far as we go through some key information for you for the transition for starting to join us in September and joining our fabulous college. We've got myself as Mr. Warburton, the head teacher, and Miss Goody, who's one of my vice principals who oversees transition as well. We've got lots of information, and what we'll try and do is go through those slides and give you the information that you need, but also we'll try and man the question question panel we've got at the side as well to deal with any questions that you've got that we haven't really picked up or you've got that you just want to ask. So I'm going to start off and just say a huge welcome and just tell you a bit about us as a college and why we're super excited about welcoming you all in September, and why actually we're super excited as well about what the college is going to have in store over the next couple of years. We really are in an excellent place after the past few years of navigating COVID and all the transition and with our staff recruitment. So we're in an excellent position. It really is a great time to be joining us. Just a little bit of a backdrop about Meridian Schools and Meridian Trust for those of you who aren't aware about the trust as a background. We've got the real kind of vision and values of the trust really underpin what we try and do within our school at Ely College as well. And the vision really is quite a simple statement of the high quality education for all within the community. And that emphasis on the community is hugely important for us. So we have key lines that really resonate strongly with us about every child being a successful learner, confident individual. We talk about every child being known, valued and cared for. And we take the responsibility of being a community school very seriously. It's not just about the relationship between the staff and the students. We pay huge regard to the relationships with our parents and with our governors and our local businesses as well. And we really want the college to be an exceptional college for an exceptional community. And the trust is growing at an exponential rate. We've currently got 31 schools. 14 primaries, 14 secondaries. Those of you who are far more gifted at maths will understand that 14, 7 doesn't really make 31, but obviously some of those secondary schools have post-16 provision, which we have as well. And we've also got 3 special schools, and you can see on the map the geographic distribution, whereas some trusts try and focus across a wide geographical area. We've actually got a very tight geographical area. And what that means is that there's a huge amount of resilience within the system and a huge amount of expertise. So I was yesterday off site for a whole day with all of the other 14 head teachers. And we talked a lot about what we're doing with our development plan and our strengths and how we build on that on the year forward. So it gives us a huge amount of opportunity to network with head teachers and experienced people at I forgot what they're called now. Executive principals. Yeah, it's been a long week. Who've been doing the job for a very long time and very experienced, and we're able to tap into their expertise as well, even if we can't remember their job titles. So it means that you can be really more confident as parents that you're not just coming to a school that's focusing on the strength of a few individuals. You know, you're focusing on the strength of a team and a trust behind that team, which gives us a huge amount of resilience. So we know that whereas Ely College might, in the past 6-7 years ago, might have had a slightly different history and different experience, we're very much on an upward curve and looking to make sure that becomes the steady default experience of every student, that this is at least a very good school that has a fantastic provision for all that come through our doors and have our experience with our community. We have 5 really key values about that all schools within the trust follow. We've got the flexibility to respond to our local context, but the 5 values of the trust are underpinned with our 5 values as well: the value in people, the high quality learning environment, achievement for all, extending the boundaries of learning, and the pursuit of excellence. And these values really underpin everything we do within the college in our day-to-day experiences and also our development plan. I've just nearly finished writing the development plan for the next year, and really that these 5 values are embedded and interwoven all the way through everything that we're trying to do over the next year and beyond. Because if you really value the importance of relationships and that compassionate and unconditional positive regard, then you're going to get exceptional outcomes. You're going to get an experience where you can really encourage students and staff to understand what the pursuit of excellence actually means for all students. And then we get back to the position we were before COVID, where you're really starting to cast your net globally and think about how can we open our classrooms and experiences to students more from Ely and Cambridge and the wider field with the resumption of our international trips. So I'm going to hand over now to Sarah, who's going to talk you through the slides of the house system and the pastoral structure.
Good evening. First of all, thank you very much for putting your trust in us with your child, and we hope that they will have a very good and positive experience with us, and that we'll be able to work with you to ensure their progress both academically and outside of the classroom. I think one of the best things that we have here at Ely is our house system, because obviously we're quite a big secondary school. And a lot of your children at the moment will be in quite small settings. But what the house system enables us to do is almost to create 5 schools within the bigger whole. And as you know, your children have very excitedly already been given their houses. So to some of you, that might not come as a surprise which house they're in, because you might have had older children that are always with us. So we make sure that siblings are within the same house. And then when it comes to looking at the other students, we do that based upon data, because we want the same amount of amazing creative writers, the same amount of great mathematicians, the same amount of brilliant sprinters in each house, just to make it nice and even for our inter-house competitions. And I feel it's important just to stress at this point that whatever house your child is in has no impact at all upon their curriculum. So, for example, Etheldreda, our yellow house, is formed by our PE teachers. It doesn't mean that students who are in Etheldreda do more PE lessons than any other children. So they still follow exactly the same curriculum. And it also doesn't affect any children that they're able to mix with at social time. So actually, one of the great things that we've kept post-COVID is that Year 7 have their own designated area for social time, which means that they have their own kitchen, their own toilets, their own indoor and outdoor space to eat, and the whole year group mixes as a whole during that time. And what it also means in terms of the house system is it doesn't impact at all either who your children are in lessons with. So there will be within their lessons will be children from all the different houses. And what I'd like to do now is just to explain to you how the house structure works. So I've been into some primary schools and I've spoken to your children about our vertical tutoring system, which is absolutely fabulous because it enables a smaller tutoring group. So actually in the mornings, for the first 20 minutes of the morning, they'll be in their form group, which will consist of 4 or 5 year 7s, 4 or 5 year 8s, 4 or 5 year 9s, 4 or 5 year 10s, and 4 or 5 year 11s. And that creates a little family that will continue, and they will stay in the same form group until they leave us in year 11. It means that they will have with them older students who they might be able to get some advice from, because obviously in year 7 and 8 all of the children do the same lessons, whereas once we get to 9, 10 and 11 the children get a little bit more choice, so they can ask some of their peers in the older year groups what those particular subjects are like. And it also enables them to have people around the site who are older than themselves that they will recognise and that will help them out. So therefore, they will stay with their form tutor for the whole of the 5 years main school experience with us. We obviously hope that you stay with us till 18, till Bishop Laney at the end of year 13. But for them 5 years of main school, they will stay with us with the same tutor. And within that house, your children will have a senior tutor who will oversee their pastoral and behavioural well-being. And then a student support assistant, who I think is absolutely key. Now, on this slide here, you can see the student support assistants who are next to the logo. Miss Quambry in Scott House is joining us in September, hence why she's not got a picture yet. But what you can see is that actually each house has a designated phone number and a designated email address. And that student support assistant is in that house office from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So before school, after school, during social time, during lesson time. So should your child feel ill, should your child lose something, then actually there will be someone there to support them throughout the whole day. And actually they're there to support you too. Because what you might find is, you know, as your child's left the house, they've forgotten their PE kit, they haven't packed their lunch. Well, actually drop your house an email, drop your house a quick phone, and they will be able to sort that out for you and your child. And it also means that it gives the children a designated space to go. So should they feel like they are lost or they're not sure where to go, then actually we've got 5 house offices around the school site, and we'd encourage them eventually to use their own house office. But actually, as they're getting to know the school building, it means that there's 5 places for them to pop into to ask for advice and to know what to do. And in terms of navigating the site, we do also use the house system to help them navigate the site. So you will notice that if you walk around the building and you came to our open events, that actually Turing is made up of our maths and English teachers. So when the children get near their maths and English lessons, they will see that we've painted the corridors blue. For example, our Franklin House is made up of our science and languages departments, and when they get to that area of the school, that area is painted green. There's a lot of worries when I've spoken to your children in primary school about what's going to happen if they get lost and any sanctions that we're going to implement for getting lost. And we're not going to do that in the first few weeks. They will have guides with them. We've got 5-minute movement time. They will be shown to their lessons. So please, we'll try and work with you to try and alleviate any of those worries that your children have. Another worry sometimes is, what if I don't get my uniform quite right? And that's okay. If we don't get it quite right in the first few days or weeks, we'll work with you with that. And we do ask with our uniform policy that you buy these items, please. And anything else can come from a supermarket. So shoes, shirts, trousers, they can come from a supermarket, but we do ask that those following items be brought either from Pool Days in Ely, or if you'd like an online option, there's Price and Bucklands. And don't forget, I think there's a very popular Facebook group for Ely second-hand school uniform. And we are also doing a second-hand uniform sale towards the end of this academic year on the 18th of July. And if you're not sure of exactly what type of uniform and things that you do need to buy for your child, then there are some pages on our website which will give you detailed information. So this is our school skirt, which comes in various different lengths, and we do ask that that is of knee length, please. And then also on our school website, we've got information about trousers that we like and trousers that we don't like and we prefer not to see in college. And we do similar information for our shoes as well. So we ask please for a plain black formal shoe. We don't allow trainers or anything that is branded. And similarly with the PE kit, we just ask that you buy the one compulsory item, which is our PE top. And then anything else you can buy from a supermarket. So our PE top has a black, it's all black, and we'll have on it the colour of your child's house. And then in terms of equipment, we ask that your child brings to school the equipment that is listed here and a bag that is big enough for them to fit any exercise books or an A4 file into. Now, unfortunately, we don't have lockers at Ely College, so sometimes children prefer to keep their books in their classrooms. And that's absolutely fine, but we do encourage children, and please do encourage your children actually to bring their work home as well, because it's really nice for you to share with them pieces of work that they're proud of. So making sure that they do that is really nice and helpful. We do have a no mobile phones policy on site. Children are welcome to bring their mobile phones with them as long as they're turned off and in their bag between 8:30 and 3 p.m. We prefer not to see them at social time. We don't really see them in corridors or out during lesson time. However, obviously, you know, if there's an issue and they need to contact you, we're going to support them doing that. You know, if they leave the house and think, oh, actually, you know, I've signed up for pottery club tonight and I haven't told anyone at home that I'm going to be home later, then of course they can contact you. But what we ask is actually they report to the house office, and the student support in the house office, student support assistant in the house office will allow them to use their mobile phone, and they will be able to call you. But what we do ask is that actually that mobile phone is used just within the house office, please. And I'm going to pass you back to Simon, who's going to give you a few more details about our expectations.
Magic, thank you. Once Simon's realised how to unmute his microphone. So, expectations. I mean, we've got one of the many questions we get when we go in to visit primary schools is tend to get asked about the food in the canteen, which we understand is very, very important, but we also get asked about what happens in detentions and behaviour points, and we try and really kind of reassure the students that the rules that we have in secondary school are actually not a million miles different from the rules that they have in primary school. We really want students to interact with each other with courtesy and compassion. We ask them to follow the rules and really conduct themselves in a way that they would expect to conduct themselves when they're at home. But we do have expectations normally to make sure that when you've got 1,600 students that we're going to have on site in September, that we all do manage to move around the site and integrate and interact with real courtesy. So the expectations, and we will focus on these in the first couple of weeks to make sure that everyone's clear, that we expect students to stay on the left in the corridors. We do have certain corridors around the school that are one way, and we've done that to make, we've brought that in to make sure that students are able to move around, because some of the students, as they get to year 9, year 10, 11, start to get quite big. But we did that as a means of just making sure that students felt super confident in the corridors. We ask students not to wear coats indoors. We don't ask them also not to drop litter. None of these are kind of earth-shattering news. And in terms of the classroom expectations, it's really simple in the sense that we ask them to do what they're asked to do the first time of asking. We don't want them to talk out of turn, and to behave in a way that they feel that they're really acting with pride and courtesy towards others. And we have the same expectations with the dining room. But what the students will really see is that these behaviours are really modelled fantastically well by our older students. So they're going to be able to see that how we expect them to behave is exactly how we expect the older students. And one of the many, many huge aspects of the vertical tutoring, of which we're hugely proud of, is that our older students mix and support our younger students fantastically well. So whereas some students come into school and realise that, you know, when they've been in year 6, they've been some of the oldest and biggest in the year in the school, and they come into school and they're dealing with people who are significantly taller than I am, then actually the older students really do care, because there will be 4 or 5 students within their tutor group with older year groups, and the older students really do take a real interest in looking after the young ones moving around. So there's no reasons to worry. In terms of the curriculum, we're super proud of the curriculum that we've put on offer. And the aim really of our Key Stage 3 programme, year 7 and 8, is to make sure that students have the broadest experience possible in some real depth. We're not interested in covering things a mile wide and an inch deep. We want to make sure that students have got a really good detailed experience of subjects, so that when they're able to go on to make their choices for 16 GCSE, they're able to do it with some confidence, because they've explored and had a really good balance of the subjects that they covered previously. All of our subjects in year 7 are taught mixed ability, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Most of it is that students are going to find that when they come in, that they've got 10, 11, 12 different teachers, where they're used to one previously, and where we have groups that move around as core groups, it means they're able to build some relationships and have that confidence that they're going to the same classes with the same students, with some minor tweaks when we look at groupings for technology. The allocations that you can see are on the side of the slide. We've got English and maths. These are 6 hours per fortnight, and for us we have a 5-period day of 1 hour. You can see that we're really committed to make sure that we have the breadth with the arts. We don't look to restrict the curriculum by focusing on that sense of focusing on the core subjects. We're hugely passionate about the art, drama and music provision here. Technology is delivered fantastically to a high standard. We've got computing in the curriculum, modern foreign languages, and every single student in year 7, year 8 has an hour allocated to the library, where they're shown how to use the library effectively, and we really emphasise that love of reading that underpins a successful engagement with the curriculum. In terms of reporting, we've done some work with parents over the past 16 months about reporting, because I think that we send these detailed reports home, and we wanted to make sure that parents understood how to read them, because on face value they look like they don't share a huge amount of information, but actually they will give you a lot of information about how your child is doing, and the benefit of these is you get these 3 times a year. So this is an old report that we've taken from a student last year. And there are some key bits of information to see on this that will really give you an idea for how your child is doing. The key thing at the moment is when you get your first set of reports is to look at the current indicator. And what that tells you, if you look at this box here, is that the current indicator is a forecast of where we think your child is likely to be when, in terms of grades, when they get to year 11. Now, I'm going to really heavily caveat that with a forecast. It's not a prediction. It's not a guarantee. This is based on hundreds of thousands of students over the past 15, 20 years who've gone on to do these assessments. And on average, we can pick out a strong correlation between the data that students have in their year 6 and their prior attainment and how they go on to achieve at 16. Now, clearly, when you're looking at average and trends, there are some students who do far better than we would expect, and there are some students who sometimes don't do as well as we expect. So we have these kind of lines of progression. So when it says in line on a child report, what that means is that the prior attainment suggests that this child should be working towards a grade 4 or grade 5 when they get to GCSE, which is the equivalent of, in old money, of a C grade, really, in terms of the old grading. So that gives you an idea of this child's prior attainment and the grades they should be moving towards. What you've then got is the progress that they're making. So if a child in year 7 has an indicator of in line, that means that we anticipate they'll be working to a grade 4 or 5 by the time they get to the GCSE, and it means the progress that they're making is in line with our expectations. So this child is making really good progress towards their grade towards the end of the GCSE. So what that says at the moment is we've no worries about how your child is doing academically in their subjects. Where you see a P+ for maths here, what that says is, look, based on our assessments over the past term, your child's doing better in maths than we thought that they would normally progress, and we're really quite pleased with how they're doing. So when you look at the reports, what you want to look for is there's no P-, because that tells you they're not quite making the progress we'd expect. And then you don't really want to see any of these S's on the attitude to learning descriptors. What these mean is they tell you how your child is applying themselves in the lesson and in their home learning. So where you see here, for example, in music, Mr. Newsom said that this child has got an A grade for their attitude to learning, which means A means this student demonstrates a high level of engagement in lessons. Learning behaviours are exemplary. Not many students will get A's for their attitude for learning. So if you see that, then you can give them a big pat on the back because they're obviously working super hard in music. Where you see S's, that means that their progress, their attitude to learning is satisfactory or sometimes. So the student is rarely fully engaged. Learning behaviours are inconsistent. Now that can give you the impression that they are a little bit distracted sometimes, or they're not quite on time with their homework, and they're not really showing work to the depth and quality that we'd really expect. So as a parent, what you'd want to be doing is to say, hugely well done for art and drama and for geography, you know, you're really smashing it out of the park. But whatever you're doing for art, drama and geography, you need to make sure you're doing more of in science and Spanish, because there the attitude to learning isn't quite up to where it would be. What you would tend to see over time is that where we see students displaying this sometimes approach to their attitude to learning, that can occasionally lead to a P-, because you're not quite putting the effort in that you would expect to continue to make the progress. But we'll go through this over the next year as well. And of course, if there's any questions about your child's report, you'll be able to raise that with your form tutor or the Child's House SSA and with the head of department as well, and get feedback. In terms of homework, we try and balance it well in year 7, because I think what we're really mindful of is that what we want students to do is they spend a significant amount of time with us in school, but we also want them to have lots of activities outside of school. And I think there is a danger sometimes when we encourage children to do clubs and activities outside of school, that can clash with lots of homework. But clearly, with homework, we need students to get into good routines, and part of that as they move through the school curriculum is that they're going to need to become independent learners and understand that for every hour that they're delivered in school with taught time, the reason our most outstanding students make huge progress is because they put a huge amount of effort in outside of school as well. So it's really about getting that balance. So English, maths and science, we have one task a week, and we normally ask that that's up to an hour. There have been, and that's really important with students who do Sparks and TASMI, that sometimes it will take students perhaps longer than an hour to cope with that workload. And if that's the case, they just need to communicate with the teacher and stop at the hour. We are very good at knowing who's actually spent an hour of erstwhile activity, as opposed to those who say they've only done 2 activities and that took them an hour, and that we think there's a bit of kidology going on. With languages and history and humanities and art and design, that you'd normally expect there'd be a task a fortnight, and that's largely to do with the timetable and how we set the work and get the work back before we teach them a next lesson. We don't see formal homework with drama, music and PE, but we would sometimes recognise enrichment or contributions where students take part in activities outside, and we encourage them to take part in PE, sports activities and some performance activities as well. In terms of family systems, we've got a really clear use of technology, although we try and get the balance right. So we use the Microsoft Office 365. Every single student gets an Office 365 account, and by virtue of having that account, you will be able to, as parents, download a free copy of Office 365 and all the apps that they're in terms of Word and Excel. And we use EduLink as our parent platform. We'll send the details out for you to have access to that as soon as all of your details are registered, because that goes through our management information system. EduLink is an excellent platform where you'll be able to see what your child is doing in terms of attendance and reporting, and all key documents are shared on EduLink, and it really becomes a one-stop shop. And we've got the vast majority of our parents are using EduLink to track their child's engagement in school. Now I'm just going to hand back over to Sarah, who's going to give you some more updates about catering and logistics about the start of term.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I should first of all start with catering to say that we won't let your child go hungry. So if for some reason your child hasn't bought a packed lunch or hasn't quite worked out how to use the catering system yet, don't worry, we will make sure that they are fed. But I think it's really important to say that we are a cashless site. So that means we would encourage your children not to bring any money at all onto the school site. And actually, in due course, you will receive a WisePay login letter from us with an individual login details where you can log in and you can have set up an account for your child where they will be able to pay for food in the canteen should they wish to. And big news actually to the canteen, because the students have just recently through a student voice activity voted to have half paninis. This is very important in the student body, so they can now buy half paninis, not full paninis in the canteen should they wish to. And even better news for you is you can actually see whether they're buying the full panini or the half panini, because the WisePay account allows you to set a limit on how much your child spends, and also enables you to actually look at what they are eating. Which we do occasionally remind the children of when we see them holding maybe 2 or 3 donuts. Most of you, I think, are within walking distance from Ely College, but if you aren't, and if you require your child to have a bus provision, then please visit the Cambridgeshire County Council website and make sure, please, that you do fill in that bus pass. We ask that those children have their bus pass with them at all times, and obviously then they will need that to travel to and from school. And obviously, we're really committed to making sure that actually your child comes out with some really great academic outcomes. But we want to make sure that actually they're great global citizens, that they've got really good leadership skills, that they're kind and considerate and can function appropriately within society. So the way in which we do this is via our Pledges programme. So for us, Pledges stands for participation, leadership, excellence, diversity, giving, environment and service. And what we aim to do is for all our students to achieve their bronze pledge by the end of year 8, their silver pledge by the end of year 10. And if they want to go on and do their gold pledge by the year 11, we'll support them with that. If they want to take a year off to support with their studies, that's absolutely fine. Some of your young people might want to actually get that bronze, silver and gold pledge all in year 7. That's wonderful too. And actually, once they've achieved their pledges awards, our students go on to become some of our student ambassadors. And to achieve a pledge award, a child needs to complete 3 sections from each category. So we'll be looking to support your child to complete 3 sections from the bronze participation, 3 sections from the bronze leadership, 3 sections from the bronze excellence, and so on. And the good news for you is that if it gets to a rainy Thursday afternoon in the summer holidays, there's an optional summer pledges programme where your child can actually get ahead of the pledges programme and actually complete this. Now, I realise actually in the booklets that your children have brought home, there's reference to this, and they will be given an A4 copy when they come and join us next week for the transition day to bring home. And there's also a copy on our website should they lose it between school and your home. But actually, if your children would like to give that a go and to have a look at that and then bring it with them in September and hand it into us, that will mean that actually they will have had head start on their pledges programme. So that would be absolutely wonderful. One of the things that we do here at college that's a little bit different, I think, from what you will have experienced at primary, and maybe a relief for some of you, is that actually our extracurricular activities are free. So actually we call a session 6 every day after school from 3:15 till 4:15. And there's a vast amount of clubs and things that are on offer. So we have things like debate club, we have manga club, we've recently had Dungeons and Dragons, pottery club, a whole wide range of sporting clubs. And when I've been visiting your children in their primary school, what I have asked is that actually I think going to one of these clubs is a great way to make new friends, because it'll mean that actually they'll experience people who've got similar interests as them. And obviously if your children are requiring a bus home, then we do have that service as well, so they can engage with extracurricular clubs and they can sign up for the minibus after school via our library, and then we'll make sure that they get home safely after school. So I think Mr. Warburton alluded to the timings of the school day, and what we mentioned is also the fact that the year 7s are completely separate to the rest of the school. So although it looks like they have their break times with year 10, actually year 7 and year 10 have completely separate areas, and that's really nice. And I think it enables the children to know that maybe they're not with their best friend during their lesson time, but actually they can meet up with them quite easily during their social time. And we're really looking forward, obviously, for your children to come into college with us and to spend the day with us next Tuesday and next Thursday. So if your child's currently in St Mary's or the Lantern, they'll be coming into college on Tuesday, and then all of the schools will be coming onto the site on Thursday. And what we ask is that your child comes via main reception in their primary school uniform and brings with them a packed lunch. Now, if normally you get a free school meal, that's fine. We'll provide that lunch for your child, and that they bring a water bottle with them as well, and that they're picked up from main reception at 2:45 p.m. I've made an error there. It's definitely not a.m. We're not keeping them after midnight. But if your child normally walks home and you normally have an agreement with your primary school that actually your child can walk home on their own, that's absolutely fine. You don't necessarily physically have to pick them up unless you usually do. And actually, we're really excited about inviting you onto site. So on the 18th of July, we'd like to invite you all onto the college site, because we'd like you to meet your child's senior tutor. And then what we'd like you to do is to also meet your child's tutor. And it doesn't matter if your child's tutor is a current member of staff or going to be a new member of staff in September, that tutor will be there to meet you and your child and to get to know you and to answer any questions that you have. So if your child is entering Scott, Etheldreda or Seacole House, we would ask you to please come on site for 3:45 p.m. on that day, and that actually if your child is in Scott or Etheldreda, we'd ask you to use the lay-by and come in via that entrance, whereas if your child is entering Seacole, we'd ask that you enter via main reception. Now don't worry if you're scribbling all this down, because we will be sending you out a letter with the details in, so don't worry. If your child is joining Turing or Franklin, we'd ask for you to come on site at 4:15 p.m. And if your child is entering Turing House, can they please come in via the lay-by with you, whereas Franklin, can those children please come in via main reception. So it would be really nice to welcome you on site on that evening, and for you to get to meet the key members of staff that are going to be in your child's house. Can I please ask, if you live locally, if you could maybe walk or bike, because there's limited parking facilities on site. And I know it seems a long way off, but I thought it was important that we kind of mentioned and spoke about that first day in September. So please note that college doesn't open until Tuesday, the 5th of September for students, because we've got a training day where staff will be in on Friday the 1st and Monday the 4th of September. So on that first day, children arrive exactly like they've arrived for the transition day, so from the main reception, please. On subsequent days, they will need to use the pedestrian exits, but we understand that actually they may have forgotten where they're going over the summer holiday. They may feel a little bit anxious, so staff will be there to meet them on the first day and to take them around the building and to show them where they need to go. So that first day, if they can make sure that they're at main reception for 8:25 in the morning, please bring their PE kit with them, because it might be that their timetable says that they will have PE, and their timetable will be published and given to them on that first day. And just a note with their timetable, obviously there's a lot of students and we need to make sure that we organise them in the way that keeps them safe. So what we do is we organise the cohort into north, east and west. And actually north, east and west doesn't mean anything. As Mr Warburton says, we actually do mixed ability in year 7. It's just a way of us making sure that the children are kept safe and we know where they are. So when your children come home and you see their timetable, any numbers next to their lesson, you know, an E5 means exactly the same as an E1. So just bear that in mind, because we're mixed ability, and actually our external testing with progress indicators in maths and progress indicators in English have shown actually that since we've gone to a mixed ability setting, students of all prior attainment have progressed more than when they're in a streamed approach. So obviously we'll continue to monitor that, and as long as that's working for all our children, we will be going with that approach. And then just a note in your diaries for next academic year is actually on Tuesday the 19th of September, we'll invite you back into college again to meet with your child's form tutor, so that actually maybe you can have a bit of a catch up about how your child has settled in and what they have been getting up to over the first few weeks of term. Obviously, if you've got any concerns before that point, please don't hesitate to contact the house offices. So remember those email addresses and those phone numbers that are specific to your child's house. Please at any point don't hesitate to get in touch in those first few weeks if you feel like there's something there that you want to discuss and can't wait until the 19th of September. Now we have got those few events, so your children are coming in next week and then you're coming in on the 18th of July. But if you get to the middle of the summer and there's questions that you feel like you have that you haven't had the answer to yet, I'd just like to point you in the direction really of a few things. There's a transition page on our website which we will publish the slides from this event from. We will publish the recordings from this event. There's a virtual tour, there's a welcome video, there's actually a lovely booklet that our student ambassadors have written for your children, and our student ambassadors have said, you know what, if I was joining the college, these are the facts that I would like to know. That's a really lovely document to have a look at. And if you look through all those documents and you still haven't got an answer, then please email us at transition@elycollege.co.uk. Obviously, if you've got a question between now and the end of term, please just note it down, and then we'll be around when you come into college on the 18th of July, and you can ask us then in person and we can answer it then. But if you've got a question over the summer holiday that you can't find the answer to, then your best approach is probably to email that address. And as with everything really, once September comes around, we will be looking at getting some feedback on the transition process, and be looking at what events the children found really useful, what facts and information you found really helpful, and anything that you think would be helpful to refine and benefit from future year groups. So please don't worry in terms of feedback from this evening or thoughts about the presentation. We will collate all that information in September. I hope we've done a good job of answering your questions. I think 1 or 2 questions have come through. I'll maybe just leave it open. If anyone else has got any questions to type in, please do. We will stay around if anyone would like potentially a one-to-one conversation. If they've got any concerns or questions, we will wait and be around for that. Otherwise, we're very much looking forward to seeing your children next week, and of course inviting you into college before the end of term. And it's going to be a real privilege to be working with you and your child to ensure their academic success, but also to develop their skill set outside of the classroom as well.
Thanks, Sarah. I mean, we really are excited, and obviously we've just shared news as well that we've just got £5 million of funding to to completely renovate our Needham's Tower, and that's going to be open for students from January 25, which is not that far away at all. So no, I am going to stick to that, because we're not going to have any silliness about missing deadlines, and that will mean that our current year 10s who are going into year 11, that'll be their year 12. So the students who are joining us in September for year 7 are going to have a brand new spanking building that they're going to be able to use, not just as sixth form, but particularly when they get through to sixth form, and really are seeing the college go from strength to strength in terms of our resources and our teaching expertise and our growing reputation. So as Sarah said, it's a huge privilege that you put your trust in us, and we take that very seriously. We're really proud of the community and the relationships that we have within the college. We think it's an exceptional place to work, an exceptional place to study, and we're very much looking forward to developing those relationships with you in the future. Thank you, everyone.